Alright guys, Spittin Chips here. Check it in, go up discussion. Main talking points is going to be Ethereum versus PulseChain. What is pHex and eHex, and who is Richard Hart? There's been a lot of talk lately, and if you're new to this ecosystem, you've probably been hit with a bit of a dilemma going, who are these people? What is this blockchain? What is this layer 1? Why is this person called Richard Hart dealing with prosecution, trying to bring him down? And the main thing is criminal charges and probably seek some kind of financial penalty. But let's get back into the core thing, which a lot of people have lost sight, and even veterans of the game, the OGs, they have lost sight on the key thing at the moment. And that is Ethereum versus PulseChain, and how good is PulseChain. So just have a quick look over here on ChatGPT, and you can just do some general searching by yourself. Sometimes you got to be careful with ChatGPT. It's pretty accurate, but it's not 100% flawless at the moment. And there's one significant thing I noticed when searching for differences, comparisons and so forth, and that was language. PulseChain uses the primary language of Go for its nodes, but we'll get into that in a bit. So let's get onto the main points here. Turn down the music just a bit so you can hear me a bit better. Ethereum versus PulseChain. Now, if you're unsure and you don't know what Ethereum is a proof of work, and they are progressing with Ethereum 2 and hoping to do, well, they're saying they're going to do a complete merge or move to proof of work. So what is proof of work versus proof of stake? And comparing that to PulseChain, PulseChain is a purely proof of stake network, layer 1. These are both layer 1s. PulseChain is a fork of Ethereum. So if you're wondering, there's been some comparisons. Just imagine how good is Ethereum, if you've got any ideas about it already. How good is that network? Reliable, safety, speed, and also wealth. If you think Ethereum is good, you're going to love PulseChain, because PulseChain is a fork. And a fork, in simple terms, is they just copied Ethereum. It's an open source software, so went ahead, copied Ethereum, and made some significant changes which actually sped up the network. So we go through here, and just quickly, Ethereum is a decentralized platform, enables developers to create and deploy smart contracts and decentralized applications. These are called dApps. It operates a proof of stake consensus mechanism as its upgrade from proof of work with Ethereum 2.0 upgrade. So that's saying it was obviously first created as a proof of stake, and now it's proof of work and is moving to proof of stake. And we've got PulseChain here. PulseChain is a fork of Ethereum created by Richard Hart. So we'll talk more about Richard Hart later. OG in the game, OG in Bitcoin, so that's how far back he goes. With the primary goal of improving the Ethereum ecosystem. So this all came about, and we're going to get more into this later, but the original cryptocurrency Richard Hart created, and with his community, was Hex. Just Hex. It was originally called Bitcoin Hex or Hex Bitcoin. But it's just called Hex now. So Hex was running very well. If you want to look more into Hex, we can do that later, but we'll just start on discussing how PulseChain came about. So Hex was working very well, and what happened from there was Ethereum's price went up as more people were using the network. and obviously we're going through, as the network gets used, what's happening is more congestion, and for blocks to be completed and generated, and from there obviously there's a requirement and there's a need for that cryptocurrency, and therefore the prices go up. So when that happened, each transaction became more expensive, and the utility of Hex wasn't efficient anymore. It wasn't doing what it was designed to do, and it was to complete tasks of you staking your Hex cryptocurrency for a period of time, and then receiving a benefit, just like you put funds into an account and you receive interest. It became too expensive because the Ethereum price went up, and then from that point everybody got to the point where they created ending stakes, and it was to the same price or more than the actual Hex price itself. So everybody got to the point they're like, well, this cryptocurrency is now failing. What do we do? Well, great idea was created: fork Ethereum and make it cheaper. So that's what happened. So from there, to summarize on Ethereum, it currently has high transaction fees, and that's usually called gas fees. That's what usually the whole crypto community calls the price for a transaction to be completed. It's a gas fee, and this usually happens predominantly during the network congestion. So euphoria, when there's a lot of people wanting to get and buy or want to complete transactions on the Ethereum network, price goes up. Also, this is when a lot of people want to own Ethereum crypto, so supply and demand, price goes up. And with the network, Ethereum has a relatively fixed supply. To complete the transactions on Ethereum, you actually require 32 ETH. So 32 ETH needs to be staked for you to become an Ethereum validator. For those that don't understand what a validator is or don't know about it, it's pretty much that it gives you the ability to complete a block. So you need to have 32 ETH staked, and that gives you the ability opportunity to complete a block. That works out to be around 97,632 US dollars. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to become a validator, especially if you wanted to further strengthen the network by having independent nodes completing these transactions. Comparing that to PulseChain, a validator needs 32 million PulseChain as a minimum, and that works out currently to be 1,440 US dollars. This is just at the time, and it fluctuates when you're doing comparisons to different liquidities, i.e. Ethereum versus USD or Ethereum versus DAI. What are they trading pairs, and how much are they buying and selling at? But that's roughly what you need. So you can see it's a significant difference to be on Ethereum, but it also shows you that, hey, Ethereum is a good network, and you can see that by the price that's required, but it also shows you, hey, PulseChain gives you the ability to get in and do some of these wonderful things that you're doing on the Ethereum network. So pushing on through, the main vision and the purpose of Ethereum aims to be the global decentralized computing platform, and it's focused on enabling decentralized finance, DeFi, NFTs, and other data use cases, and it seeks to be the backbone of Web3 ecosystem. So what we're discussing here is pretty much the future. It is the future of our systems. And this could be from transfer of technology, information, to simple tasks of I want to send you a document which needs to be imprinted and time-stamped, and also has to have a security. all can be done on this network. This also, as you know, could be a financial transfer. So yeah, this is really opening up the doors for everything within this. The only downside is that because the system has become so expensive, Ethereum has become so expensive, you had to they've now created layer 2s and layer 3s on the network. And that pretty much what it does is it bundles a whole heap of transactions together to complete on one layer 1 transaction. So just imagine stepstones, you got to complete one to get to another to get to another. Still doing the same thing, but the only problem is you're wrapped into a different entity. And the downside of that, the main downside to summarize, is risk. There's a risk, exposure to risk. The upside of it going to layer 2s and layer 3s to do the transaction on the layer 1 is that it's increase of speed. So it's condensing information, which is great. For those old school people, just similar to a WinZip file. Okay, so and then here is a nice little table summary. So the consensus mechanism, we're going to proof of stake. That's what it's actually progressing into at the moment. Transactions, its transaction fees at the moment is high, especially during congestion. The speed is moderate. And also depends on congestion, so it can slow down. The ecosystem is the largest ecosystem for dApps, DeFi, and NFTs. So just listen to that part right there. A lot of people might be shitting on Ethereum at the moment, but it speaks for itself. It's still the largest ecosystem for dApps, DeFi, and NFTs. And the token supply is a limited supply. And the main focus is decentralized computing. So enabling the individual or the company, just enabling the entity to do computing on its own term and structure, creating something similar to, say, a shipping company would like to do orders. So they could build something on that they have at 2 destinations, which they load up to this layer 2 or layer 3, and they can record when shipping is moving between the 2. So imagine a very simple, scan code, QR code. It leaves, scan QR code on the other side. Boom, done. And if we want to do that, so from there I also was inquiring what is the languages that are used, what is the significant languages. Ethereum uses Solidity. This is the primary language for smart contracts. So talking to the Ethereum virtual machine. Vipro, that's a Python-like language. It's used for writing smart contracts. Yule, intermediate level language. So you can just see these like layers. These are giving me people, could be AI now, the ability to write at different levels, different competencies. And there's also other languages here which you would use to write the dApps, and that would be JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Web3. Yeah. So that's pretty much everything there. The one thing they didn't mention here, which I then asked, was Go. And yeah, okay, because why wasn't that mentioned in his language is pretty significant. And Go is actually used for the node development and the core structure. So the major significant difference between PulseChain and Ethereum is Go. Go is the primary code language used for the nodes in PulseChain compared to Ethereum. And this is a significant difference, purely because Ethereum has allowed you to use other languages such as C++ Prism and Rust. It's a bespoke clients like Nimbus. and Python. So what you got is that you've got all these other languages trying to work together on the nodes. Now, yeah, it gives flexibility, but what it can do is create errors in the code when you're doing upgrades. And yes, obviously, the bright side is flexibility, but unfortunately, it can create weak points and congestion because you're trying to compute all these different things. Where what PulseChain has done is says straight up, you know, we're just going to use Go. And Go is primary language. It seems to have been the best language because it allows scalability, performance, and concurrency. So why not just Go? In terms of advantages, it has network performance, scalability, and transaction throughput. Because it's done that, therefore it can actually reduce the cost because it can speed up the time of transaction. So yeah, and that's what we call on block times. A block is a certain amount of transactions in one block, and there's a max amount you can do, and a block will happen within how many seconds. So boom, next block, boom, next block. PulseChain has improved the amount of blocks they can do within a time period compared to Ethereum. So you can really see quite quickly why PulseChain is a better product than Ethereum, on the basis of it's quicker. You have the probability of a more structured development because it's only using Go, and you're allowing people to get into this system with it, which they weren't able to do before, in such ways of the price per transaction. Now, you're below cents on a transaction on PulseChain, where you're many US dollars on Ethereum. So if you're a coder, or if you're a startup company or something similar, and you're trying to work these transactions, trying to do something new, cost is one of the main things you have to look out for. And saving costs is one of your main things you would do as a business director or co-owner. You want to keep your costs as a minimum. PulseChain allows you to do that. And it's not limiting you to PulseChain. You can still build whatever you want to do on the PulseChain and then bring it over and communicate it with Ethereum, because they're the same. They're the same product. So whatever you want to do on Ethereum, you can do on PulseChain and vice versa. The clear difference is one's cheaper than the other. And obviously it has a core, the layer 1 transaction coin is Pulse versus ETH. That's a significant difference. To talk about anything a little bit more about PulseChain versus Ethereum, proof of stake versus proof of work. So what is proof of stake and what is proof of work? I've got some of that information down here, which makes it a little bit easier for you to understand. So proof of work, just think Bitcoin. That's proof of work. And this is where this argument comes about, where a lot of people are saying Bitcoin is destroying the environment. Bitcoin is not the way forward, because why are we chewing up all this electricity? Well, there's arguments about, and I'm not ragging on Bitcoiners at all, I'm all for Bitcoin. But if we're going to progress, we should definitely utilize our power a bit more. Bitcoin is doing their part on that. They're trying to make the way they do things more efficient, also merging to going where there's abundance of energy, but let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about the comparison of proof of work versus proof of stake. So proof of work will use more energy, and the reason for that is that the miner, and this is not a miner like a pickaxe in a shaft or a mine. This is a computer that has a program, a software on it, and this is written to be able to communicate, and its sole purpose is to solve a complex cryptographic puzzle, i.e. it has a formula which it needs to complete. Very complex, and it goes through these points, and then once it completes the formula, boom, the next block is completed. If you compare that to proof of stake, well, proof of stake is the validators are, that's what you have instead of miners, and these validators create the new blocks primarily through their stake coins. So they own Pulse, they stake these Pulse, and usually the ones that have the majority of those coins will be the ones to have the priority on usually completing that block. In comparison between the two, on completing and making the new block, it's said that a lot of people do say that it has a more of a fair system, because it's just going off computing power. But, you can say who has the money to buy the newest and greatest GPUs, graphics cards. It's expensive, and you've got to get the latest, greatest new ones. So you could argue, well, it could not be fair on that reason as well. Anybody that looks at their technology, their mobile phone, you give it a few months and there's already a new one out, and you've got the older version. So, doing that comparison, you could say, well, actually, it's kind of similar. The bright side about proof of work is that you could say there's a bit more security involved, because it's a little bit more decentralized, as there are these nodes, these units all around the world, completing these banks, completing these mines, completing this code, this block. But on the other side, the reason why proof of stake is also considered to be trustworthy and a degree of security is that when a validator does lock up and stake their cryptocurrency, which is Pulse, if they do become nefarious and malicious acts are seen to be found, and the validations, so they're creating inaccurate or false. This is what's been happening when people talk about losing money and hacks. They're creating false transactions or a blip within the code. So if they are found to be doing that on the PulseChain or under proof of stake networks, now remember, don't forget, Ethereum is actually moving to proof of stake, so that's saying it is a good piece of code to use, a way of completing this task. You will lose your staked coins if you're found to be completing this, and this is called the slashing penalty. So obviously there's an incentive. You better, if you try and do something that's going to cause a great amount of harm to the ecosystem, there's going to be serious consequences involved, and there's a high likelihood that it won't pay off doing that. So those are, I think, the main key reasons, the differences between the two. energy we've talked about, security we've talked about, decentralization we've talked about that as well. Proven and security, obviously the proof of work has been around for a while. But hey, it's, proof of stake is got a few years on it as well. So, yeah, and there hasn't been any major issues that I've been aware of. So it's like saying we've got one way and we should never go to a better way. Like having an old phone and you should get the better, newer phone with the newest firmware or software. I'm going to stay to mine instead of upgrading to the new one. We're humans. That's the greatest part about us, is that we're always progressing, always layering forward. And proof of stake is the way. So straight off the bat, PulseChain has said we are going to adopt proof of stake over proof of work. And that's what the clear difference is with the two, of Ethereum and PulseChain, is that Ethereum has a mighty task to merge their whole ecosystem over to proof of stake. It's a task. You can imagine if you're a business owner trying to change the way your business is working while it's operating. That's quite a task. Where straight off the bat, PulseChain launched, being proof of stake, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to change. It's already operating the way it needs to. There's no chance of you making a change and all of a sudden that, oh my gosh, there's an error, because for some unseen reason we couldn't see that issue. So yeah, if you haven't heard of PulseChain already, I really highly suggest you look into it, purely for these reasons, that if you love Ethereum, you're definitely gonna love PulseChain. And just there's a lot of there's a lot of distractions going on at the moment, and if you want to get back to the key things, just remove everything else and just think of crypto, and just think of the technology, and just think of Ethereum and PulseChain. Just forget everything else, and you just do the comparison. You go, does Ethereum have a future? Is it doing great things for the ecosystem? Is it doing great things for the world, for the people? Is it continuing to innovate? If that answer is yes, you shouldn't be wasting any time in looking into, wasting any time not looking into, or prolonging looking into PulseChain. Their main websites is up here. You can see ethereum.org. It's cool. It's a cool website. I like it. I definitely like this symbolism here. Progressing down, they got everything you want to know about here. And then this is the PulseChain website. PulseChain goes straight into MetaMask. If you don't know what MetaMask is, it's the ability to trade crypto on your phone. You download MetaMask, the program, and you upload. Currently you have to do a manual, but I believe it has been updated now. You just select it, but this is the way you actually add PulseChain to MetaMask. When you're doing things like this, you know you're early in. And if one of the reasons why you're in crypto is to make a lot of money, trying to make a lot of profits, this can be one of the indicators, my personal opinion. And it really runs you through how to do all this really well. And this is not hard. It really isn't. And there's so many videos on YouTube how to do it as well. Progressing forward, it gives you information for the developers, and here it shows you the amount of pulse you need to become a validator. And it really shows us from the get-go PulseChain goals: increase Ethereum value. So what PulseChain is saying, and the community, and especially Richard Hart, he's saying, I am here to support Ethereum. Ethereum is doing a great job, but it has a limit. And the limit has got to the point where L layer 2s and layer 3s need to be built to operate with the system. So what we have done, we as in I've participated in this, has built PulseChain to work with Ethereum, to alleviate the traffic, the cost, the burden, not to take away the greatness of Ethereum, but to work with it and say, hey, we are as good as Ethereum, cheaper. We don't have the Ethereum, logo, but we're as good, as safe, and we can do transactions quicker. So here's your main thing. It's got a little spill, and you can go into other things as well. And the best way to see PulseChain statistics is go to a website called gopulse.com, GOPULSE.com, goldprice.com. And that really up the top here, you can see it as a lot of drop downs, and it really gives you an idea of validators, blocks, a lot of information, how the actual layer one is operating. There's some apps here, some coins, all the coins that are currently on. There's unique coins that are on the PulseChain ecosystem that aren't on the Ethereum ecosystem. Also, to add, because PulseChain is a fork, a copy of the Ethereum ecosystem, all the coins that were on there were copied over to the PulseChain network. So that means if you owned coins at the point at which the fork was completed, you have those same amount of coins on the Ethereum network. Now, price of those coins is to be made by the market, but how awesome is that? Free coins. You're already in the system for free. Some of the coins, yeah. And down here you can see the four main tickers. Pulse, the ticker PLS, that's for PulseChain. You have PLSX, which is PulseX. That is the I forgot the name of it now. That is the exchange. It is the exchange that has been created and is the main exchange on the PulseChain ecosystem. And this exchange actually is a buy and burn function, which is deflationary. So every fee that is every exchange has a fee. Part of this fee actually goes to buy and burn the actual token of PLSX, which is great. It means reduction of supply and should mean an increase in price. INC is the incentive token. This is partially you can receive this is what you can receive as a validator. There's also other ways of receiving INC, incentive coin, and this is inflationary, but it started out at 0. So comparing to these two here, Pulse and PulseX, these were sacrifices where people donated money or crypto, where it was, in their finances, and in return they were given an amount of crypto. Nothing was guaranteed, but we were given it, so it's great. And there's Hex, the original, the OG Hex. And this is the Hex on PulseChain. So this is a great segue to now move into our next topic, and that is, what is pHex and eHex? You might be hearing this a lot of tubes, as they say, pHex and eHex. And if you looked up the tickers pHex and eHex, eHex, pHex, you wouldn't see anything. And you'd be like, what are all these people talking about? I have no idea what they are talking about. What they mean by pHex is hex on PulseChain, pHex, and eHex is hex on Ethereum. So when I said to you, and I mentioned that all the Ethereum tokens are on the PulseChain network, Hex is also on the PulseChain network. So anybody that had Hex, they were gifted Hex on PulseChain, which was awesome. So what pretty much happened was everyone that was using Hex on Ethereum is now using Hex on PulseChain. And the main reason that PulseChain was created was to reduce the fees so that we could use the Hex platform in the way it was intended and designed, with low fees. Not being chewed up, our profits were not being chewed up by fees. And from that, now you have two separate Hex operators. They're now operating separately. And this is the web page for Hex if you want to look into it, hex.co, hex.com. Pretty cool website. This is showing you returns in Hex, your percentage of returns a year. This is from the staking mechanism that Hex has been created, and this has been running for a while now, a few years. It's pretty impressive, and it's done quite a price appreciation because of, we can look at the charts later, but it's been going through some hard times, but what cryptocurrency hasn't, and that's what a lot of people won't tell you. They go, oh, one cryptocurrency, and if they want to beat on a particular one, but there's a lot out there, but they want to beat on Hex, they go, oh, it's down so much. You go, okay, mate, let's zoom out and look at all the other currencies you have, and let's see how much they've gone down. So, don't throw stones in glass houses. It's a pretty good website. It shows a lot of details here, and then there's obviously links on how to buy it. But progressing on from eHex and pHex, you can find out more about that in here, but I just wanted to jump on that and just explain that, hey, eHex is Hex on Ethereum, pHex is Hex on PulseChain. Both are exactly the same. They operate in the same way. It's just they're separate entities. And you do have wrapped pHex, so wrapped Hex from PulseChain on the Ethereum chain, and you also have wrapped Hex from the Ethereum chain on the PulseChain, which is cool. So there's like, if you want to look more into your journey into crypto, liquidity pairs is something to look into, and that's when you have two types of cryptocurrencies, and there is a value that gets exchanged between the two. Excuse me. And when you create these liquidity pairs, you create ratios. So some people are actually trading instead of a price. They're thinking about how many of one can I get for the other. They remove the mindset of a value, and they go, oh, obviously, as in we always do a comparison into US dollar. They think of a ratio, a comparison. How many pHex can I get for eHex, and vice versa. And this is not limited to just Hex. There's all these other liquidity pairs out there. And now let's move on to the next topic, and that is, who is Richard Hart? So Richard Hart is a bloke. He's an entrepreneur. He is. He's a bloke that's been around for a while, and he's a businessman as well. A lot of people have been saying a lot of things about him. I personally don't know him, but I can look from what he has completed, and that's my benchmark. I don't personally know the bloke, but what I can see is he's created something. He has created something. He has been the project. I mean, this is in business terms. I'm using business terms now. He's been the project manager. He's been the project manager to create a layer 1 that is successfully operating. Now, who do you know that's successfully created a level 1 that's operating right now? There's no issues. There's no hacks. There's no downtime at all. And you've got to give him a little bit of credit for that. At least just a small bit. I mean, you go out in your life, and if you ever run a business, or anything similar, if you haven't run a business, and just using the business comparison, but if you go through anything you like, and you do a little project in your house, and you want to renovate your bathroom, And you have to go through and say you've got a cracked tile, and you go through all these processes. You go, okay, right, I've got to remove the tiles, and how much is that going to cost? And how many days am I not going to have my shower for? All the little things you got to make sure you don't forget about. You know, sealing and all these unforeseen things. And just think about that. A simple task, a little bit of maintenance, or if you're a white collar worker, going through and creating emails and whatever you may be doing, grouping those together and making sure that there's a certain way to deliver these emails. And you're organising an event, and those emails need to be sent out at the very beginning and requesting certain. Anyway, you get what I'm getting at here, is that we're doing my comparison is I'm savvy. I am savvy with my electronics and modern day technologies, but I haven't accomplished creating a crypto ecosystem with an exchange and a token which you get rewarded for making and creating and completing blocks, mining, being a validator. This is unbelievable, and I commend you, Richard Hart. I commend you for doing this. Well done. And if that's anything to go by, forget everything else and go, well done, mate. Also, Richard Hart has been a person that he YouTube streamed for a while, and you can check out his YouTube videos. The earlier ones, quite insightful. Not the top hat ones. If you want to go back into those ones, you can. But my personal favourites were post the top hat videos, and yeah, the information. And it goes for an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. And I used to have that just on the headphones and listening to his content, and you go, wow, I am learning a lot from this person. He has a certain personality, and not everybody has the same personality. You can't judge him on that, but you can make a judgment on what he's telling you and if it's true or not. And you can always fact check. You can fact check his information. So yeah, he's a YouTuber. He's a public spokesman. There is videos of him getting around at public events, and he's also called out a lot of people on incorrect information, especially Bitcoiners. He has spoken to those and called out the incorrect information, which is spreading within the Bitcoin community. And this is not him to rag on and say Bitcoin is bad. It's just saying, hey mate, you guys need to be aware of something and don't stick your head in the sand. Bitcoin's an amazing thing, amazing accomplishment for everybody. But hey, there is some downfalls. There's certainly a lot of ups, but there is some downs, and you can't just go, oh, I'm going to forget those. Well, if you forget all those things, that's the demise of the system. That's how it breaks down. Yeah. So Richard Hart also has a video, Highest of Stakes. This is a documentary. I believe there was a lot more information in this documentary. It got cut down quite a bit, but it's pretty good. I believe it's on Netflix. Not sure if it's getting around anymore. It was actually showing in the cinemas for a while. So yeah, very interesting documentation. Yeah, I think it's worth a watch. I feel like there was more content, but from what it was, it looked very interesting. And also, here is Richard Hart's Twitter. From that, you can get a bit of an idea of what type of person Richard Hart is. The amount of information he's giving you here to make you aware, not just pointing out how well PulseChain is doing within the community of crypto, but also to point out other details regarding. So let me give you one moment. So I'm just looking through Richard Hart's X page, X profile, and I'm still scrolling down. There's quite a bit here. So here is actually him doing something on mental health. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Things often get better on their own. And what you thought was bad really wasn't that bad after all. Being broke is much like being a high school kid with your future wide ahead of you. It's only temporary. So you're just giving you a point where, as a human, and our lives are quite hard, you forget that, hey, living is actually a gift. It's hard to see it sometimes when things are quite hard, but when you get those moments when things are good, you go, wow, I'm quite happy to be living this life. And you don't see this from a lot of which is the phrase for that would be leaders within the crypto scene actually going, hey, I care about you as an individual. We can be better together. He's even here calling out Bitcoin price. He's saying like, hey, I'm saying Bitcoin was going to go up to the hundreds of thousands. There's even his price called 241,500. So that's what he thinks Bitcoin is going to go up to. So yeah, there's a variety of things he's talking about. Bit of politics, a lot of different things in the crypto atmosphere, what to be aware of, what's bad, what's good. Yeah, a lot of promotions on the PulseChain, Hex and everything else. So yeah, that's good. And the last thing we'll do right now, let's look at some graphs. So here quickly you can see, this is just a pair. Remember I was talking about pairs. This is the wrapped Bitcoin to Sol. Bitcoin is dropping down. You can see some wicks there, wicks going down, candles, and that's a bit of a wick, 91,700 odd USD. So yeah, it's dropping a bit. We go to other ones. We can go to. I'm just looking at the main ones here. We can look at ETH. So ETH as well. Whew. Yeah, everything's taking a bit of a beating at the moment. What is going on in the markets? What is going on? Is it the end of the market? Is it the end of the bull? Well, time will tell. There's a high probability not, my personal opinion. But yeah, and let's get on to PulseChain. So there's ink. Here's hex. So this is hex on. See how it's got that color on it? And there's trading on PulseX. This is a hex on PulseChain. So there's the liquidity pair, hex versus PulseX, and it's giving you a USD price. We have Pulse. Here's wrapped Pulse. So this is at DAI. If we click on this one, it's a pretty good pair. It has 3.3 million in volume. So let's have a look and see how PulseChain is doing at the moment. So you can see, boom, it was going great guns, and then had a sell-off, and now it looks like it's simmering out for a while. There's been a fair bit of, if we want to talk about what has happened to the main core coins in the PulseChain network. There's a word called FUD, Fear, Uncertainty and Doubt, and that has been created by Richard Hart, and he's the current court case with the SEC. Now, you may think, oh, what's going to happen here? If there's a fine, how's that going to affect the network? Well, the network will operate by self-continually. What could happen, which I think is highly improbable, is somehow the PulseX and PulseChain and Hex tokens are held by the original address, get sold off. But I think that ever is going to be happening. There's too much in this ecosystem for those to ever be sold off, to affect what the future is here. And Richard Hart, if unfortunately he is taken to the point where he gets a fine of some sort, he has his own personal funds. He doesn't have to worry about these core coins. So yeah, so that's me talking about and spitting a few chips regarding Ethereum and PulseChain, what is pHex and eHex, and who is Richard Hart. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this content. It was nice for me to voice this. I hope if any other YouTubers in this ecosystem or outside the ecosystem take these points into perspective, that would be great. I'm all for all cryptos in the crypto ecosystem. I think supporting them all is the way to go forward, purely because in comparisons to everything else that's happening in the countries in the world, you're constantly losing the value of your currency, i.e. the purchasing value. So to take an example, for instance, like Australia, the cost of everything has increased through inflation, and the amount of income you're increasing has not your personal income, which means you're losing the value of your savings, if you do have savings in the currency, which is the Australian dollar, given the example of Australia. So crypto in general is progressing to be the ability to offset inflation, which is a bare minimum if you're going to be saving. All right, everyone out there, have a good one. If you want to hear more of me, you like and subscribe, and leave some comments if you want any further information or raise some topics, and I can give you some content on the next video about it. Take it easy. Bye.